Hi everybody, Matt Bernie or Mike Beard taking a look at the late pick 4 sequence at Santa Anita Park on Big Cap Day. Races 8 through 11. There's $1 million guarantee, money galore. Now the question is how you're going to make the money. We start off the first leg. 3 grade 1s are involved in this sequence. Start off with the grade 1 triple bend, 7/8 of a mile. Problem is, we start off with a heavy favorite who looks like he's lone speed. Are you going to try and beat Masochistic?
I feel like I probably shouldn't. It just looks like such a great situation for this horse who there's no other speed to go with him. He might just be walking on the lead in here and maybe he'll just win. I don't know. He's not my favorite horse in the world, Matt. I don't really trust him in this race. I guess he'll just win, but at the end of the day, I decided to go equal weight as my A's in the first leg and use Silent Bird. I know Silent Bird may not be good enough, and they're going to really test him here, but I don't know. I really like this horse. I like all of his races, and maybe he can keep in range and make a race of it. I don't know.
Silent Bird really hasn't done anything wrong. He's a half length away from being unbeaten. Mark Glatt, I think, has handled him very well.
Yeah.
His most recent start going 2 turns, I think that margin of victory is very deceiving. He made the front with about 1/8 of a mile to go, and he pulled himself up.
Right.
And then when El Huerfano came back at him, he re-engaged and went on with it. I think he's a very, very logical horse. The problem I have is I have a hard time imagining anyone going with Masochistic. And I happen to be of the opinion that his speed is much better at this distance than it is at 6 or 6.5, because you get some real speed balls at 6, and I don't think he wants any part of that. You throw a straw in his path, he's going to pack it in. He doesn't want to fight you.
Right.
But I don't think he's going to have to fight very hard to make the front.
I don't either. He's supposed to be really hard to beat in this race. We'll see if he needs one off the layoff, but if he comes back fresh and he's fine and he makes an easy lead in this race, they're probably not going to beat him.
Certainly compromises the chances of some other horses. Kobe's back off of a long layoff, 7/8 of a mile. He always spots the field 3 lengths out of the gate.
Right.
Denman's Call ran just unbelievably well, considering he destroyed the start last time and came from 150 out of it. The problem again becomes who is going to keep Masochistic honest. Let's take a look at your Ticketmaker play. As you made mention, you're going to use equal weight Silent Bird and Masochistic, but you are going to throw in a little bit of Kobe's back.
Yeah, I guess I'll use him as a backup. I know he's good enough to win. I mean, if he can, avoid somehow totally blowing the start and then having Masochistic just walk on the lead. I mean, I don't see why he's not good enough to win this race. I don't really trust him, but I'll use him as a backup, especially because as the sequence goes on, man, I mean, you're going to get to the big cap in a few minutes. I mean, I couldn't go deep in that race. I'll try and beat the favorites early and not late.
We'll take a look at my Ticketmaker play right now. Masochistic, I just had a hard time getting around him. If he breaks and gets to the front, I think he's gone. I will use Denman's Call because that was a very, very good race. Trust me, if you haven't seen it, go into Formulator, pull up the replay, as well as Silent Bird for all the reasons you laid out. He's a very nice horse, talented, and I think there are races for him.
I think so too.
Graded stakes, whether it's Saturday afternoon or down the road. Let's move on to race number 9, arguably the most contentious race of the entire sequence, the Grade 1 Kilroe Mile. It's always one of my favorite races year after year. It's a short field, but you can honestly make a case for any of the 7.
I agree with that. I think a lot of different horses can win, and you also get a little, added bonus here that I think you get when you get a horse like Dortmund trying turf in this race, he's just bound to take money in this race off reputation alone. I think that helps out because I don't know about you, but I want no part of him against Grade 1 turf horses as he makes his turf debut. Maybe he wins, but I don't want him. The more I looked at this race, Matt, the more I just felt like, whether I'm right or wrong, I'm betting Ring Weekend in this race. I'm betting him to win in this race, and I'm leaning all over him in the pick 4. He is the horse I want out of that Arcadia that produces 4 of these horses.
I liked him in the Arcadia, and he came with a little bit of a late move. I wonder if Bejarano just had him a little bit too far out of it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him a little bit closer this time around. Again, you have 4 of the 5 horses that ran the Arcadia back here in this spot. What do you do with Conquest Enforcer, who it looked like on the far turn was going to win for fun? And then he ran 3rd. He couldn't even get 2nd. Now you hear Phil D'Amato come out and say, quarter crack during the race, now he's good to go.
Right.
Do you fully buy into that? And do you say, if that's the case, is that the difference?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, if it's a viable excuse for him, that he could beat this field for sure. Yeah. He's got races that are good enough. We'll see what they do with him. Listen, maybe it's a viable excuse, and if it is, he's going to be tough. I sort of watched that race back going, how did he not win? I mean, he got a great trip. The other thing, I think they should be maybe more aggressive with him in this race. I mean, why were they so content to concede the lead last time? I know What Have You's a really fast horse, but to me, when I watched that race, the reason I want Ring Weekend out of that race is I thought they fairly walked on the lead in that race. I mean, What Have You went to the front. Nobody went with him. He was on his own up the backstretch with Conquest Enforcer, just sort of waiting. And Conquest Enforcer didn't even go after him until they got to the quarter pole, and then they started racing. To me, then it was way too late for Ring Weekend to make up any kind of ground in that race. I still think he did well to get as close as he did. I think they go at it a little bit harder in this race, and I think that helps Ring Weekend.
We haven't discussed the winner of the Arcadia. You've been a fan of Bolo since he was a 2-year-old. Thought he ran just fine, all things considered, off of a long layoff. The question now becomes, from an individual race standpoint, last time it feels like it was the time. He's going to be a much shorter price. Does that mean that you just, throw him out from the pick sequence, though?
I'm not just going to toss him, but I'm going to use him as a backup. Yeah. I liked the race that he ran last time. I thought he ran fine, and I was happy to see him, come back running again and win another big race. I think it'll be harder for him this time.
Let's take a look at Mike's Ticketmaker play, race number 2, or I should say the second race in this late pick 4 sequence. You have all of your eggs in the Ring Weekend basket as far as A's are concerned. You can use 3 backups.
Yeah, I really like him in this race. I want to bet him, and I feel like there's a chance he's maybe 4th choice in this race, maybe 5th choice. So I want to try and leverage him in the pick 4, but I will take backups because it is a wide open race.
We'll take a look at my Ticketmaker play. I almost used Ring Weekend in equal weight with Conquest Enforcer, and I'm with you with everything you said. I was disappointed that you've got to run second, in my opinion, not fall back to third in the Arcadia when it looks like you're going to win for fun. But you hear Phil D'Amato bring up the quarter crack, and I also have a sneaky feeling he's much better on firm going than he is on ground with some cut in it. I know he ran super well in the Mathis Brothers 2-back with some cut in the ground. I think he's going to really appreciate hearing his feet underneath him in Southern California particularly. He's my lone A. I'll use Bolo and Ring Weekend as Bs. The sort of wild card in here for me is Bala Bali. Dan Illman likes this horse. I understand why. He has races on his page. If he remembers what he once was, he can win this race. And he's arguably going to be the longest shot on the board. He or Flamboyant, they're going to be way up there. And you could certainly do worse than picking up Javier.
I agree with that. I mean, I thought long and hard about throwing Flamboyant into my pick 4 too. I don't think he's totally impossible, and I don't love his recent form though. But yeah, I totally get the case for Bala Bali.
Race number 10, it's the big one. Grade 1 Santa Anita handicap, 1.25 miles on the main track. Midnight Storm is your morning line favorite. He also looks like he is as loose as he wants on the front end. Man. Can he see out 1.25 miles?
I don't know. I guess that's the real question, isn't it? He hasn't been able to do it so far, but they haven't tried it that many times. I don't know. He's supposed to be hard to beat in here. His last 2 races are both good, and he is loose in this race. And the other thing he has going for him is this is not a strong big cap. I mean, there's not a lot of talent in here. You got a bunch of guys just taking shots with turf horses. I don't know. To me, the 2 favorites are very strong. I'm not even going to try and separate. I'm using 1-3, and I'm using nobody else.
Shaman Ghost is the 3. He ran so well in the Pegasus World Cup. He's never going to be able to beat a horse like Arrowgate, but guess what? I don't know if anyone will ever be able to beat Arrowgate. Look, at 1.25 miles, I think this is actually his bread and butter. I think distance is fine. Yep. He won the Queen's Play as the 3-year-old at 1.25 miles. The only thing that concerns me is obviously the pace dynamic, where maybe he's up against it. Midnight Storm has the jump on him. You're only using the 1 and the 3?
That's it. I'm not using anybody else.
Let's take a look at Mike's Ticketmaker play. Equal weighting, the 1 Midnight Storm, the 3 Shaman Ghost. We'll take a look at my Ticketmaker play. I have both of them, but I moved Shaman Ghost over to a B. I'm throwing in a wild card. I've loved him since he got here, and he's let me down a little bit each time. Hi, Happy. I understand. He looks like he's just a turf horse. He won a Group 1 in Argentina at 1 mile and 9/16. I get that we're going considerably shorter than 1 mile and 9/16, but Lasix go on, and I almost feel like if anyone is going to sit off of Midnight Storm, I'd like to think it's going to be this horse who was lit up like a Christmas tree in that most recent start in the San Marcos.
He was.
He's a washed-out mess, and you'll also note that they worked him in 58 and change prior to that race, and a lot of people, a lot of clockers in Southern California said he lost his race before he even got into the gate. The fact that he hung around a little bit makes me at least intrigued with them trying a race like this. I'll go 1-8 as A's, Shaman Ghost as my backup. The race that is not a grade 1 in this late pick 4 sequence, it still has some legit quality to it. That's race number 11, the nightcap. It's $75,000 China Doll for 3-year-old fillies. They're going a mile on the turf course. When I first saw the entries, I saw Sir Cat Sally, and I said, single, put a ring around her because she's a monster. I've loved each one of her races. You agree a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, she's hard not to like in this race. And listen, whether you feel like you want to bet against her in this race, and this is the kind of race where I might take a shot against her straight up. I'm not getting this far into pick 4 and then getting knocked out by her. I mean, she's just a good horse. She's proven it from day 1, and her turf debut was fine last time.
Don't know what you want to do with this formulator fact. It just struck me as odd.
Okay.
Hollendorfer, past 4 years, turf, winner last out in a non-graded stakes event. 3 for 51.
Ouch.
Not a good number for Hollendorfer.
That's a big sample, too.
Yeah, it's not like we're dealing with 10 races. We've got 51. I'm not suggesting that precludes her from winning this race. Obviously, we've seen what she can do. She wins on turf, she wins on dirt,
Yeah,
she
she's
wins
a good horse.
sprinting, she wins routing. I agree with you. You have to use her as an A. But all of a sudden, I'm going through looking at replays, and I thought the number 10, Beau Recall, was tremendous in her stateside debut.
Me too. I mean, I think we kind of look at the race the same way. I'm not way against Sir Cat Sally, but if she is a relatively heavy favorite in here, I'm betting the 10 to win, and I'm using her in the pick 4. I loved her race last time in Santa Anita. I mean, they took her back to last. They just waited. As soon as they wheeled her out in the stretch, I love the run that she came with in that race, and she's so lightly raced. She could even get better from there. She needs a trip from post 10, but if she gets one, she might not be easy to hold off in this race.
Outside of the big 2, who else are you using?
I'm going to use Miss Sugars. Stretching back out, down on the rail off that. I thought she ran fine down the hill. I think maybe she's a little better going longer.
Yeah.
I'm going to use her as a backup. I'm going to use How About Zero as a backup at a big price. I wish she had run a little better last time. Her race 2 starts back behind Sir Cat Sally, though. Boy, did she run deceptively well with a trip in that race. I'm going to use her as a backup as well. And I also threw in Go On Mary as a backup, the other O'Neill horse, second-time turf. And I thought she ran fine. She closing at the end of that down-the-hill sprint last time.
Let's take a look at Mike's Ticketmaker play for this late pick 4 sequence. I could not agree more about How About Zero. I was a little disappointed in that run. Now, keep in mind, that run was, 12 days ago, 11 days ago when this race is going to be run. But at the end of the day, the run that she put in back, that was a giant race. On paper, if you just look at the raw dope, it looks like she didn't do anything.
Exactly.
She did a lot of running considering the traffic that she had to encounter throughout. Big effort from her. I can understand that race completely and using her in the pick sequence. We'll go over to my Ticketmaker play. The only backup I'm using is a horse on the also eligible list, so there's a very good chance that she's not even included in this race. It's the 13 Siberian Iris for Dick Mandela. I thought she was very impressive, breaking her maiden most recently at 9 furlongs. Now, the way that she ran, though, I have to be honest. I feel like more distance is going to be her friend. 1 1/8, 1 1/4. If she gets in here, great. I'll use her. If not, I'll just basically pitch her out, and I'm going to go 5-10 and stand on those 2. It's a really fun sequence. 3 graded stakes, 3 grade 1s, including a non-graded stakes to wrap things up on the turf course. Races 8 through 11 at Santa Anita Park, the late pick 4 sequence, guaranteed at $1 million, the pool. Mike and I will have the 3 grade 1 races for you on DRF Live. Coverage Saturday afternoon starts at 4 o'clock Eastern. Best of luck.